Meet Christina, a 25-year-old recluse navigating life's complexities from the comfort of her solitude. While she isn't exactly unemployed nor enrolled in any educational pursuits, her family might beg to differ, especially her brother. How did she end up this way, you ask? Well, it all traces back to her deep-seated mistrust of people, a sentiment rooted in her tumultuous experiences during middle school. Though she labels it as mistrust, the underlying reasons are manifold, primarily stemming from feeling overlooked. The cause, it seems to revolve around her singular passion for machines. Christina's fascination with computers and her knack for all things mechanical made her indispensable around the house. However, this reverence was short-lived, overshadowed by her declining grades and her increasing isolation from peers, all consumed by her digital pursuits. Concern soon morphed into admonishment from her parents. When will you outgrow this obsession with machines? Navigating through the turbulent waters of middle school, under the constant barrage of parental scolding, I found myself questioning the validity of my passions. Slowly, the notion crept in that perhaps I shouldn't be pursuing what truly interested me. In response, I sought solace within the confines of my room during school breaks, effectively severing ties with the outside world to avoid my parents' scrutiny. This retreat only fueled the rumors circulating about me, branding me as odd or potentially dangerous, a label that gradually alienated me even within the school walls. In the midst of this isolation, my brother Keith emerged as my unwavering ally. With a talent for sweet talking and a keen ability to ignite my motivation, he became my beacon of support. Thanks to Keith's encouragement, I managed to navigate through compulsory education, albeit without proceeding to high school. Instead, I opted to immerse myself in remote computer-based jobs from the comfort of home. Fresh out of middle school at 16, I dove headfirst into part-time work, channeling every penny earned into a passion that consumed me. Salvaging old computers, dismantling them with meticulous care, and reconstructing them from the ground up. What began as a simple hobby burgeoned into a profitable venture by the time I hit 20. Armed with the skills to craft computers from scratch, I ventured into the market, offering affordable machines to eager buyers. Before long, my endeavors bore fruit, catapulting me into the spotlight as a reputable entrepreneur. At just 25, I find myself basking in the glow of success, having amassed a modest fortune. Remarkably, my newfound wealth affords me the privilege of contributing $2,500 each month to my parents' household, with plenty left over to spare. Despite numerous attempts to explain my job to my parents, they remained steadfast in their lack of understanding. After several heated arguments, they adopted a hands-off approach, decreeing that as long as I could sustain myself, my profession was of little concern to them. This newfound autonomy granted me the freedom to inhabit my parents' home without interference, as my financial contributions spoke louder than words. However, the shift in dynamics wasn't mirrored by my brother, once my staunch ally and confidant during my school years. Initially supportive, he gradually soared towards me, perhaps weary of a sister who, even in her 20s, remained entrenched in her bedroom, immersed in her mechanical pursuits. His demeanor towards me grew increasingly hostile, sparking frequent conflicts that have left us estranged. Our relationship plummeted to new depths following my brother's marriage. It became apparent that his wife, a figure from his high school days, harbored disdain towards me, likely influenced by my brother's portrayal of me. She resented her newfound role as my sister-in-law, a sentiment she seemingly imparted to my brother. As this toxic dynamic persisted, I found myself branded as the pariah of the family abode. Despite my self-imposed isolation within my room, the palpable hostility directed towards me gnawed at my spirit, a stark contrast to the genuine concern expressed by my parents. Overnight, the sanctuary of my parents' home morphed into a battleground. No longer did I find solace within its walls. Instead, I felt besieged, with my once loyal allies dwindling in number as my parents appeared to succumb to the influence of my adversaries. Despite my financial independence and contributions to household expenses, I found myself perceived as a burden by my brother and sister-in-law, who couldn't comprehend the nature of my pursuits. Their remarks grew increasingly hostile, threatening to oust me from the family home to claim it as their own. Feeling alienated and estranged from my brother, I contemplated leaving once I secured alternative accommodation. After all, if I were to be forced out, there would be no obligation to continue supporting the household financially, allowing me to save those funds for myself, a silver lining amidst the turmoil. Just as I was weighing my options, my brother broached the topic of inheritance, revealing a gross misunderstanding on his part. Despite being unemployed and secluded in my room, I lived comfortably thanks to our parents' financial support. When discussions arose about my departure, I was met with a shocking ultimatum: relinquish my claim to inheritance, as my brother and sister-in-law aimed to secure the family assets for themselves. Little did they realize, the very funds I provided sustained our parents' carefree lifestyle at home. However, in my brother's eyes, I was not but a burden confined to my quarters. Contemplating my next move, I decided to seek clarity one last time, driven by a sense of compassion. "Are you truly content with me leaving?" I inquired. My brother's derisive laughter was all the confirmation I needed. "We'd be thrilled if you could just vacate already," he sneered. It dawned on me once more how profoundly he misunderstood the situation. With a mixture of pity for his ignorance and determination to forge my own path, I resolved to depart from our family abode. Several days had passed since my brother's demand for my departure, yet I remained sequestered within the confines of my room. Despite my brother and sister-in-law's relentless efforts to evict me, their tactics only fueled my determination to resist. Their incessant knocks on my door, cessation of meal provisions from our mother, and demands for self-sufficiency in chores like laundry, all were mere inconveniences I could easily adapt to if I were to live independently. I refused to passively accept my impending displacement. Rather, I viewed it as an injustice demanding retribution. With my proficiency in machinery, a plan began to take shape in my mind. My brother had underestimated the power of my technological prowess, forgetting the significance of unrestricted access to a computer. I was not one to quietly acquiesce to his demands. I intended to exact revenge in a calculated manner. Aware that my brother's marriage, coupled with my reclusive nature, represented my parents' only hope for a grandchild, I exploited their blind approval of my eviction. Setting a trap that would activate upon my departure from the household became my clandestine mission, a retaliation that would commence the moment I stepped foot outside the door. After securing a new residence and completing the requisite arrangements, the time had come for me to bid farewell to my family home. Prior to my departure, I left a parting note for my parents and brother, a poignant reminder of my contributions to our household. I've long been a provider for this family, yet it seems my efforts have been conveniently forgotten. I trust you'll come to recognize the true detriment to our family's prosperity. Though momentarily taken aback by my words, my parents quickly reverted to their belief that my brother would somehow persevere. Dismissing my message as mere bitterness, all three of them brushed off my concerns with little consideration. It was evident that my words have failed to penetrate their complacency. Despite the initial apprehension, I deemed it necessary to depart from my family home and forge my own path, carrying with me a trove of equipment from my former abode and supplementing it with additional essentials. I meticulously curated my new living space to reflect my tastes and preferences. With each furnishing and decor choice, I cultivated an environment of unparalleled comfort. To my surprise, the transition to solo living proved remarkably seamless. I found myself more productive than ever before, reveling in the freedom to tailor my surroundings to my liking. Interactions with the locals further enriched my experience, their warmth and hospitality easing any lingering uncertainties. Life post-departure unfolded in a series of delightful discoveries and newfound independence, a stark departure from the confines of my family abode. Amidst my newfound contentment, I couldn't help but ponder the impact of my absence on my family's circumstances. However, any concerns were momentarily set aside when my mother's unexpected call interrupted my reverie. "Christina, did you tamper with our machines?" My brother's accusatory tone cut through the air. "What? Tamper with the machines?" I replied, feigning innocence. "Yeah, something's definitely off with the computers and electronics lately," he persisted. "I have no clue what you're talking about. I used to handle them out of goodwill since we're family. But since you deemed me a nuisance and ousted me, even if you're my parents, you'll have to pay the standard rate," I retorted, unapologetic. "Are you serious? That's awfully greedy of you. We're your parents, after all. Can't you cut us a break?" my father interjected. "In that case, I'd rather extend discounts to my friends. Unlike you, they don't treat me poorly," I shot back, my resolve unyielding. "Fine, you're nothing but a miser," my brother spat, his frustration palpable. Internally, I let out a sigh of relief as I recognized the familiar issue at hand, grateful that another trap hadn't been triggered. Handling the situation calmly, I addressed my mother's abrupt hang-up and the subsequent spiteful email. It struck me as immature, her reaction akin to that of a sulking child. Who was the real adult in this scenario? I couldn't help but wonder. Such behavior seemed not just self-centered, but outright selfish. Regarding the family computer, all I had done was revert the status adjustments I had previously performed for my family free of charge back to their original settings. To an untrained eye, it might appear as if the computer had spontaneously malfunctioned. When I suggested they contact the company for repairs as an individual, they responded with a tantrum. But such reactions were par for the course, and I chose to let it slide. 6 months had passed since my expulsion from the family home, and just as I was settling into my newfound independence, my father reached out with a phone call. I hate to ask, but can you lend me some money? My father's hesitant voice came through the phone. Lend me money? What do you mean? I responded, caught off guard. It's just that your brother and his wife have been spending recklessly. They seem to think we're swimming in cash, and it's been nothing but demands from them. They're always asking for money to buy this or to go there. I have no idea where they get these ideas. Why do they always come to me with their financial woes? Isn't it supposed to be the other way around? Parents helping their children. My father lamented. That's easier said than done. Well, even $500 would help, he continued. I'm not giving you anything. I won't lend you money either. I have no intention of financially supporting you anymore. But if you pay me for my services, I'll work on your machines, I stated firmly. You've become so stingy. I guess what Mom said was true, he retorted. During my unemployed years, he had the nerve to say things like, you used to do whatever you wanted at home, and he kept grumbling about other things. But I didn't care. I just hung up, I concluded, ending the conversation. My father's emails may have ceased, but his incessant phone calls intensified, ringing more than twice a day, prompting me to muse, what troublesome parents I have. A few days into this relentless barrage of communication, my brother, clearly in a tight spot, reached out next. When I questioned him about their sudden interest in contacting me, he countered, let me ask you this. Why was our family home affluent in the past? It dawned on me that he must have suspected their financial predicament had deteriorated since my departure, but it was too late. My current residence had become my sanctuary, a place where both my work and life flourished. There was no chance I would relinquish it again. Perhaps the reason behind our family's wealth was my monthly contribution of $2,500 to the household. Though not obligatory, I felt a sense of indebtedness to my parents for raising me, hence my willingness to give more. Given the circumstances, why would I continue supporting a home from which I had been ousted? It seemed inconceivable to entertain such a notion. I understand now, so that explains the sudden decline in Mom and Dad's finances, my brother acknowledged solemnly. Even if you were to ask me to return, I have no intentions of doing so, I replied resolutely. I get it. Reflecting on it now, our actions were unforgivable. I'm sorry, he offered. It's too late for apologies. Besides, I have no desire to be involved with any of you in the future. Please refrain from contacting me, I declared firmly. Hey, wait, my brother's voice pleaded desperately as I ended the call. Determined to sever ties with my family once and for all, I made the decision to cancel my cell phone contract. I couldn't bear the thought of enduring any more calls about various matters from them. 5 years have passed since I terminated my mobile contract and embarked on a life of solitude. During this time, I found love and got married to a partner who not only shares my profession but also understands and supports my lifestyle. He's a compassionate soul who willingly shares the burden of household chores, allowing me the freedom to pursue my passions. The thought of reaching out to my parents crossed my mind, considering they're technically family, but it felt too late. I refrained from making any contact. However, my husband expressed a genuine interest in meeting my parents and understanding their current circumstances. In response, I decided to hire a detective to investigate the situation at my family's home. What unfolded was a grim revelation. A multitude of debts surfaced, painting the picture of desperation and financial ruin. Cut off from my support, my parents resorted to borrowing money from various lenders in a futile attempt to sustain their lifestyle and tether my brother and his wife to the family home. However, the borrowed funds only piled up, accruing interest with no hope of repayment, leaving them drowning in debt. The debts attributed to my parents alone exceeded a staggering sum of $100,000. To secure these loans, the house was used as collateral, ultimately resulting in its foreclosure. The once vibrant family home now stands as a desolate vacant lot, a haunting reminder of the consequences of severed ties and unresolved conflicts. Although a pang of sadness tugged at my heartstrings due to my sentimental attachment to our family home, I couldn't deny the bitter irony of their current predicament. Concluding that they were reaping what they had sown, I shifted my focus to investigating my brother's circumstances. It appeared that my brother had broached the subject of divorce due to his wife's extravagant spending habits, yet she vehemently opposed the idea. As they navigated through a drawn-out legal battle, it became apparent that this process was both time-consuming and financially draining. Despite his attempts to part ways, his wife adamantly resisted, leaving them at a standstill. Moreover, with no children in the picture and rumors swirling about my brother's infertility, I felt a twinge of concern. Dispatching the detective to the hospital where they sought treatment, the disheartening truth emerged. My brother was indeed infertile, his condition bordering on sterility. The doctor's prognosis painted a grim picture, suggesting that natural conception was nearly impossible. The hope my parents harbored for a grandchild from my brother and his wife, coupled with their decision to evict me when that expectation wasn't met, ended in disappointment and dissolution. With the family home sold off to settle debts, our family found itself in a pitiful state. Even a cursory investigation revealed the dire circumstances they faced. It became evident that engaging with them in their current state would not be advantageous for me or my husband. With a loving husband, 4 children, and a faithful dog, we had forged a life far removed from their struggles, a life they once idealized. Knowing that they would likely try to exploit our situation if they were aware of it, I took preemptive measures. I visited the local office to ensure that my information could only be accessed there. I resolved to keep my distance from them and asked my husband to refrain from any gestures of greeting towards our marriage. Though initially disappointed, he understood the gravity of the situation once I explained it, and he hasn't raised the issue since. As the turmoil at my family home begins to settle and the prospect of reconciliation looms on the horizon, I hold on to hope that I can mend the rift with my parents and brother.